So we're here with Joey Blush of Blush Response. Joey, how are you doing today?
Doing great, how are you?
All right, man. So we want to ask you a couple questions for deadaudio.com.
Cool. You know, I first heard Nine Inch Nails out of all the bands on, I think, K-Rock or something. It was Closer. I was like, what the fuck is this? You know, it was awesome. And so I investigated a bit. And then at the same time, another band was out called Orgy, which were like an industrial rock band. And I really, really liked their stuff, and I picked up their CD. And I remember thinking, oh my god, this is so evil. Like, I was almost embarrassed to listen to it. And not because I was, like, you know, no one can know, but I felt like it was almost wrong, but at the same time it was so cool. So I did that for a while, listened to just that first record, Candy Ass by Orgy, and I actually got the Fragile by Nine Inch Nails, and those were back to back all the time. And then I heard The Prodigy, who are not really industrial, but they basically are in some ways. And from then on it was just, you know, slippery slope. I really loved the aggression and the electronic sounds, and that kind of drew me in, you know, because you have to be an angsty teenager and hate the world and all, so it worked for me.
It's pretty cool just to hear it from the perspective of someone from a different generation and to see what got them in. And it's like, because it's like all the same bands, but like different elements.
Yeah,
so
basically. Well, I was really into all this music for a long time, and it never occurred to me that you could make it. I always thought it would be such a process, like you have to go to a studio, you have to know an instrument really well, and you have to spend years on it and form a band. And so when I was around 16, I realized that you could just download music software and make things at home, and you never necessarily had to show anybody. So if it wasn't very good, who fucking cares? So I pirated Fruity Loops and Sony Acid Pro on my family PC, and from there on I went and just started fucking around and making things. And I bought a keyboard. Microrecord was my first synth, and you know, taught myself how to do things. And it was so much easier than trying to go and learn how to play the guitar or anything. And not that I think that's bad. I eventually taught myself that too, because I wanted to have guitar on the songs. But you know, it was really cool to just be able to do it, not worry about it.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, it's funny how similar it is for everybody. You know, it's like everybody's got a similar story, and it's like how they got into it, why they decided to learn how to play guitar. It's like everybody starts because it's like, well, I can do it. So, and then once you start doing it and you start learning the stuff, it's like, oh, well, I can do this too. So,
yeah.
and that's really cool. You know, it's always fun to like have self-discovery during any kind of journey, especially like a musical journey, because you know it's in your heart. It's like, I mean, I've loved music since I was a little kid. I'm sure it's the same for you. You know, it's like, it's one of the first memories I have is my dad buying me a record for, I think it was La Bamba. It was my first album, like Little 45.
I know that song.
So yeah. So you know, and it just goes from there.
Tundra, when I was putting the record together, I sort of was looking around and I asked a couple people online who would be a good label to go to, and they kind of unanimously recommended Tundra. So I figured out how to get in touch with them, and from then on that went smoothly. With Basic Unit, I actually met Daniel at one of his shows as architect a few years ago, and we kind of kept in touch since then. And you know, I would send him things I was working on, and then when I was doing this album, he really, really liked the stuff and told me that he was doing Basic Unit and was going to start accepting artists outside of just his projects soon. But he said, well, maybe wait for your third album. And so I dropped the video for the song Voices, and he really, I guess he really dug it at that point. He said, all right, let's just do this now. So that's how it happened.
Wow.
As simple as that.
That's pretty cool.
Really into right now, Death Grips is my favorite band right now. If you don't know them, they're really cool hip-hop, but it's really fucked up and weird sounding. It sounds like Skinny Puppy Dig It. Like, it's basically industrial. It just has a different name because it's hipsters doing it instead of, you know, goths. Who else I've been listening to? I really like new Purity Ring record, although I don't know if I would say they're my top. It's just what's coming to mind. New Richard Devine record is sick. New Autechre. I don't. There's too many things. I can't think of any right now, but those three.
But we see the kind of line that you're towing there. Yeah, and that's cool, and that's an original sound. And that's what I really like was when, you know, it's like original stuff and guys putting together stuff that like you just don't hear, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like, That's awesome, and you don't get enough of that nowadays.
Yeah. New York City has a very fragmented goth scene. I'll talk to my friends who are DJs around here, and all 5 of them will be doing a DJ night on the same night. So what ends up happening is you have 3 people at each night instead of you could have one big party with all the DJs where everybody would be there. With that in mind, there's also a split between age groups and between tastes. So you have hipster goths who only like old school industrial music, and like Throbbing Gristle, and then even into like later EBM stuff. And then you have this sort of over 40 goth crowd who like the Susie and the Banshees kind of stuff. And then you have the cyber goth crowd, which is into all the new stuff like Combi Christ and Blue Tango, and so none of those scenes talk to each other. And if they did, it would be better, because then it would become something bigger than it is, instead of this kind of pissing contest about who was more legit and whatever else. I don't know.
True words, brother. That's good. That's a good answer, actually.
EDM music I don't have a problem with, but it's not my thing. It's very obviously just the next thing that major labels figured out that they could latch onto. And I mean, if you listen to the music itself, like the really pop stuff like Avicii and all that, it's not this kind of techno moving things forward. I mean, what's funny about EDM itself is the music is already electronic. By calling it electronics dance music, I mean, what dance music is not electronic to begin with? And the other side of it is all that shit is basically pop music. And some of it is even, I think, not that far off from nu metal. Some of the harder dubstep is just like Korn was in the 90s, or Cold Chamber, any of that stuff. It's just heavy, mid-range, and bass. And, it's just meant to move people. Not that that's a bad thing, but I think it's a little shallow. And I think that the other side of it is that it's a very bro culture-oriented thing. So there's no, there's no doom and gloom. There's nothing scary about it. It's a little too safe for me.
All right, that's good. That's another very good answer. All right, I appreciate that.
Yeah. The original Skinny Puppy lineup.
Dwayne. Oosh.
Brian Eno, Roxy Music, David Bowie, Japan, Gary Newman in the 70s or early 80s. There's so many cool groups. I can't begin to name them. Definitely David Bowie above all else. Just to watch it, I'd just be there as a fan. Also on the stage.
Like on the side of the stage, yeah.
Yeah. Prodigy would be a cool band. Totally.
There you go. That's cool. They put on a sick live show.
Yeah, I believe that. Prodigy would be cool. Something really... maybe Atari Teenage Riot would be a good touring partner. I wouldn't want to tour so much with an industrial group, because that's not necessarily what I represent.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so I would want to do something a little bit separate from what I do, but that's also electronic, to have a sort of connection there.
Yeah, wow. Nice list. It's quite impressive.
There are a couple of DJs that have reached out, like DJ Decapitatrix, Mike TechSpeak, a couple others, but generally I find that I'm so into creating the music that I don't have time to listen. So when I do listen to things, it's late, and it's because I find it on my own, or someone has just kind of shoved it down my throat. Someone's come over and been like, you need to hear this. So DJs are necessary and great, and yeah, I don't really know. Yeah,
man, no, yeah, answer the way you want to answer, because
Yeah.
that's what I want.
Yeah.
And it's good stuff, man. I mean, and it is the way it is. Like for me, let's say, the first time I went out, I was like, all right, that guy plays good music. And it's like, oh, that's this guy. And I'm like, oh, I don't care who he is. It's like, just he plays good music. So, when does he go on again? It's kind of like that.
Totally. Generally, I want to have a tempo. I want to know how fast it's going to be so that I can build up everything else around that. So I'll maybe sometimes do a drum loop, just something very simple. And then from that kind of drum loop, I can then start building up rhythmic synth parts or something. But honestly, it's different every time. Sometimes I'll be on the Modular and just have recorded a long passage of weird tweaks that I then chop little segments out of to create a rhythm and go from there. But it's always rhythmic based. I should say first. Rhythm is the most important thing, and then worry about all the chords and after that later. Lyrics come last. Or not last, but they'll come in the middle after I have a good portion of how the song is going to be, like a good idea, a good sense of the verse, good sense of whatever the chorus ends up being. But yeah. Lyrics last.
So you do your melodies before you do your lyrics.
It depends. I mean, sometimes you'll be going with something and you'll just have a vocal melody in your head, so you have to put it down. It's different every time. Each song kind of takes you somewhere. When I write, I don't force things to be a certain way. I just kind of, this song, it's strange to describe, but it just kind of appears in my head how it's going to go, and I let it go there.
I think any musician you talk to is the same deal, and even myself, and I'm like brand new at this, but like it's the same thing. It's like you go, you have kind of like what you want in mind, but then it just takes its own life.
Playing at Cameo Gallery in Brooklyn with two bands. One's called Mystic Underground, one is called Blackbird White Sky. They're both electronic acts. Mystic Underground is poppy. I would compare them to Erasure. I haven't heard Blackbird White Sky, but other people have told me that they sound similar to IMX. That would be a good touring partner. I would love to tour with him, by the way.
Yes. And are you going to the show on April 26th?
Yes.
Have you heard Tesla Boy?
I've heard Tesla Girls by OMD. What's Tesla Boy?
Yeah, he's like a synth pop guy out of Russia. He's awesome. He's playing the same week on the 24th. Yeah, at Webster Hall. I mean.
Oh, maybe I'll check that out.
Yeah, you definitely should.
Cool.
I'll send you a link or something.
You're looking at it. This modular synth is the source of 95% of the sound on the album. This whole system I built over several years now, piece by piece, and it's customized to give me every sound that I want to have, every possibility in sound, and without it, I wouldn't be able to make the sounds I make.
Talk to us a little bit about how the modular synthesizer works.
Basically, when you buy a keyboard synthesizer like this one, you have a signal path that's pre-chosen for you. So, you know, your oscillator goes into your filter, which goes into your amp and goes to your output. With the modular synths, you can build it piece by piece and determine the signal path. So you're not limited to the possibilities within this one signal path, you're limited to the possibilities within 5 million signal paths. The amount of variety is incredible. And the other cool thing is you're not even tied to a keyboard. You can just plug in an output and hear it and listen, and maybe you find something cool just by turning a knob from that one output. Or you can drive it from drums or drive it from a sequencer, which I use a lot.
Can you run MIDI through it?
Yeah, you can definitely run MIDI through it. I barely use MIDI with it, except to give it a clock so that it stays in tempo. But it's all hand tweaking and hand playing. Like when I use these touch sequencers here, they are, you know, they'll be getting a MIDI clock signal, but I'll be doing everything on them just by touching the keys. I like this to be a live instrument, not a, you know, I'm not in, I don't know, I don't really use MIDI often. As much as I used to anymore. Like the first album has a lot of MIDI stuff, but that's because that's what I had then.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine like it's like you graduate from it.
Yeah, yeah. So MIDI control's tighter.
So let's assume that our audience knows this stuff. What's like your favorite module?
Right now is the Make Noise DPO. It's an oscillator, and it's sick. It has a wave shaper built in, and it has really cool FM routing. The Make Noise Echophone is really cool. It's a pitch shifting delay. Probably the most important module would be this Renee sequencer down here with these touch plates. A lot of the sequences on the album are spawned from manipulating this in various ways and playing it. And at the same time, these pressure points, which are next to it, this can act as a keyboard, but also give you
slide
control.
Oh, nice.
Control based on surface area.
Nice.
So with these two in tandem, I can get really cool stuff. Like I'll have notes going here, and then have this pressure coming out to different parameters on the synth to kind of bring it in and out, like delay time or feedback or just anything really. Pitch, filter cutoff. This filter here, the Shipman CS8, has a huge presence on the record. It's on almost every song doing something. A lot of the squelchy kind of filter sweeps and weird distorted things you hear are from here with other things. And then this Metasonics tube synthesizer, it's kind of its own thing. It's not really part of the modular synth, but it's just as modular and it's on the record just as much. It's on almost every song as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
As for like the Arturia, what do you use that exactly for?
I just got that a couple days ago, so it's new, but I'm going to be using that live, and the cool thing about it is it has control voltage outputs direct, so I can use its keyboard seamlessly with the modular.
Oh.
And it's arpeggiator and stuff. And
did you get that model in particular for that reason?
yes, that's one of the reasons I got it for.
Okay.
And just because the designer of this set it up with modular in mind, so a lot of the sound features it has are very esoteric and stuff that you would normally only find in a modular synth.
Oh.
So you can get similar sounds It's not going to sound exactly the same, but it'll be close enough that no one's going to know the difference. And no one generally does know the difference anyway.
That's very true.
So there you go. It's really cool. It's probably one of my favorites since I've ever bought.
And how long did it take you to put the entire rack that we have in front of us together?
About 3 years.
And like each module is like what, about $150 to $200?
There's a whole range. Some could be under 100, some can be over 500. This filter here, I got it when it was brand new. There was a discount sale, so got it for maybe $500, but they're like $750 now. Some oscillators generally in the 300 to 600 range. Filters in the 200 to 400 range, except that shipment because it's really special.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's different. It's hard, and a lot of the stuff is bought used off of Modular forums. That's been my biggest resource for getting this and learning about it all. It's just there's such a budding community that it's easy to get things. There's always a million for sale posts, so you can get stuff way discounted, and it's a really good thing for us.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, because I find myself on YouTube a lot, learning. It's like I had no clue at all what any of that stuff did before YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. In 2006, this 4-mite Eurorack had 6 manufacturers. Now there are over 70, so it's had a huge renaissance.
Very cool. I mean, yeah, this is something that was cool in the 80s, in the 70s.
70s, not even the 80s. The 80s, they ditched all this for digital keyboards.
Yeah, exactly.
And then realized the error of their ways shortly after.
Yeah, it was like I was watching a Moby video the other day, and it was talking about how all this stuff was like completely cheap because nobody wanted it, and then now all of a sudden it's all expensive because everybody wants it. So
yeah, it's crazy expensive now.
So yeah, so that's our interview with Joey Blush. Hopefully we'll see you at the show March 31st at where?
Cameo Gallery in Brooklyn.
Be there.
Yes.